Bob Sapp is going to start to punch away on the ropes. Sapp with an uppercut. Look how big Sapp is. With the low kick. Bob Sapp coming in and eating a right hook. Sapp gets the right hand and drops Tamura. Tamura's got to keep Bob Sapp off of the fight. Over. They have thrown in the towel.
From dominating opponents in the ring to becoming one of the most charismatic fighters in Japan, Bob Sapp's journey into the world of fighting wasn't your average career path. Known for his jaw-dropping knockout power and explosive personality, what most people don't realize is that fighting wasn't even Sapp's first passion. He was actually a football player, and a successful one at that, before entering the fight game. But as fate would have it, Sapp found his way to the world of mixed martial arts, and it wasn't long before his star was shining brighter than anyone could have anticipated. From nearly securing a fight with the legendary Mike Tyson, to becoming a cultural icon in Japan, the rise of Bob Sapp is a story you wouldn't believe unless you saw it. So, how did this man, who once seemed unstoppable, eventually fall from grace? Let's dive into each key fight, starting from his explosive debut. Kicking off his fighting career in a way few could ignore, Sapp stepped into the ring at Pride 20 on April 28, 2002, facing Yoshihisa Yamamoto in Yokohama. This fight was nothing short of a spectacle, as Sapp obliterated his opponent with punches, achieving a knockout in just under 3 minutes. Fans immediately took notice. Here was a massive man with a rare combination of strength and surprising agility, able to dominate opponents from the first bell. Sapp wasn't just another fighter, he was a force, and this first win set the stage for what many expected to be a promising career. Just a couple of months later, Sapp squared off against Kiyoshi Tamura at Pride 21 on June 23, 2002. This time, he didn't waste any time at all, knocking out Tamura in a jaw-dropping 11 seconds. That's right, 11 seconds. The crowd was stunned as Sapp's monstrous punches quickly put Tamura down, showcasing once again that this was a man who could end fights in the blink of an eye. This wasn't just fighting, it was a performance, one that left fans buzzing. At this point, everyone knew Bob Sapp was here to stay, more so it seemed. In August 2002, Sapp faced Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira at Pride Shockwave, a match that's still talked about to this day. Sapp was up against one of the best heavyweights in the world, and for a moment, it seemed like he might just pull off the impossible. The crowd couldn't believe their eyes as Sapp lifted Nogueira into the air and slammed him down, showcasing a level of raw strength that few fighters could match. While Sapp ultimately lost by submission in the second round, he left a lasting impression. The fight not only proved his power, but also cemented his reputation as an unstoppable force who could go toe-to-toe with anyone, even a seasoned veteran like Nogueira. This transformation set the stage for one of his earliest and most unforgettable fights. He took on the legendary Dutch fighter Ernesto Hoost. Hoost had built a reputation as a ruthless fighter who tore through newcomers, yet Sapp was anything but ordinary. With a raw brute strength that left crowds in awe, he stepped into the ring and charged Hoost with unbridled aggression. The opening of their fight was intense. Hoost, known for his deadly precision and low kicks, tried to chop down Sapp's legs, each kick landing like a hammer blow. But Sapp's size and strength were overwhelming. Rather than playing a defensive game, he pushed forward relentlessly, throwing every punch with destructive intent. Hoost's attacks continued, but Sapp's raw power shone through, ultimately breaking down the Dutch legend, who had his face left swollen and bruised, more battered than a wheel of Dutch cheese. This was only the beginning of Sapp's intimidating presence in the ring. Closing out 2002 with a bang, Sapp faced Yoshihiro Takayama at the Inoki Bombaye event in Saitama. This wasn't just a fight, it was a wild all-out brawl. Takayama, known for his tough chin and willingness to take punishment, was the perfect opponent for Sapp's power, and the two men went at it in a brutal exchange. Sapp eventually won with an armbar submission, showing that he wasn't just a one-trick pony. He had some technical skills in his arsenal as well. Fans loved it, and the legend of Bob Sapp continued to grow, turning him into one of Japan's biggest attractions. Just a year later, Sapp was back in the ring with the same unrestrained energy, this time against Kimo Leopoldo. Kimo was a ferocious competitor known for his resilience, and he wasn't intimidated by Sapp's reputation, or so it seemed. The fight started with Kimo moving quickly, trying to avoid Sapp's infamous strikes. It looked almost like a chase scene from a cartoon. Sapp came in like a bull, and Kimo had to scramble to avoid getting hit. However, once Sapp caught him, it was game over. His punches were like sledgehammers, and Kimo was left sprawled out on the mat, defeated. It's also fair to say that probably his biggest opponent was before this fight with Kimo, and it was against Mirko Cro Cop. Mirko "Cro Cop Filipovic is a Croatian kickboxer and UFC fighter who'd earned his reputation with a left high kick that could knock out a grown man in an instant. The fight happened at Pride 2003 Openweight Grand Prix. Sapp had already tired himself running into the ring while Cro Cop was just standing there emotionless. This fight, quite frankly, was a spectacle waiting to happen. Bob Sapp, towering over Cro Cop at 6 foot 5 inches and weighing nearly 350 pounds, was a monster. His sheer size and strength meant that anyone caught in his way could be flattened like a bug. But Cro Cop, a 6 foot 2 inch, 230 pound fighter with experience in both kickboxing and MMA, had a deadly weapon in his arsenal: his left leg. If anyone could stand up to Sapp's power, it was this man. From the opening bell, the fight had a unique feel. Sapp charged at Cro Cop with the same aggressive style that have served him so well in his previous victories. He was all raw muscle, throwing wild punches, aiming to impose his will and break Cro Cop down with pure physicality. Every time Sapp threw a punch, it seemed like the entire arena held its breath, knowing that one hit from him could end the fight. He had the power to knock anyone out with a single shot. Cro Cop, though, was no stranger to big, scary opponents. He remained calm, focused, and strategic. While Sapp swung for the fences, Cro Cop used his footwork to stay on the outside, dodging and weaving, making Sapp miss and look foolish at times. Cro Cop knew that he couldn't afford to go toe-to-toe with Sapp, not with that kind of power. Instead, he relied on his experience and the precision of his strikes, looking for an opening to land one of those signature kicks. And then it happened. In the second round, Cro Cop saw his opportunity. As Sapp lunged forward, attempting to land one of his haymakers, Cro Cop sidestepped and unleashed a left high kick that seemed to defy physics. The kick connected flush with Sapp's head, landing with a thunderous thud. Sapp's entire body went limp in an instant. The sound of his skull meeting Cro Cop's shin echoed throughout the arena, and before anyone knew what had happened, Bob Sapp was out cold, lying motionless on the canvas. The crowd went absolutely wild as Cro Cop walked away, unfazed by the chaos he had just caused. It was a brutal, almost clinical knockout, a perfect display of how technique can triumph over power. Cro Cop, with his calm composure and deadly precision, had done what so many others couldn't. He took down the beast with a move so clean, so fast, that even someone as strong as Sapp didn't stand a chance. Then, on September 21, 2003, when Sapp took on Stephen Gamlin at the K1 Japan Grand Prix, the fight barely lasted a minute, 52 seconds to be exact, before Sapp, true to his reputation, put his opponent to sleep. And here's the kicker: he didn't need his fist for this one. Instead, Sapp locked Gamlin into a standing guillotine choke that could make even seasoned grapplers wince. The Yokohama crowd went wild, and just like that, Bob Sapp added another wild victory to his list, proving he was as versatile as he was powerful. On March 14, 2004, Sapp faced off against Dolgar Suringen Samya Bazar at K1 Beast 2004 Nagata. Sapp was famous for making fights look easy, but this one was different. Samya Bazar sustained a foot injury, and it wasn't long before he had no choice but to call it quits. Yet this wasn't just any TKO. Sapp's sheer presence and relentless attacks likely contributed to his opponent's downfall. The fight lasted the entire round, but Sapp walked away with yet another win, solidifying his place as an unstoppable force. By 2005, Sapp was a certified superstar in Japan, and he was tearing through opponents in the Heroes series. He took down Kim Jong-wang in Seoul with a knockout in just 8 seconds. Yes, another ridiculously short fight. Then came Alan Karayev, whom Sapp defeated with a powerful punch in the first round, followed by Min-Soo Kim, who also fell victim to Sapp's power, going down in just over a minute. Each victory seemed to reinforce Sapp's unstoppable image, as he showcased a terrifying combination of strength, aggression, and showmanship that few could match. Fans couldn't get enough of him, and Sapp was becoming more than a fighter. He was a pop culture phenomenon. The K1 World Grand Prix 2005 in Hiroshima was one of the highlights of Sapp's career. This was a tournament format, meaning Sapp would have to win multiple fights in a single night, and he did just that, taking down Yoshihiro Nakayo, Hiraku Hori, and finally Tatsufumi Tomohira in succession to claim the Hiroshima Grand Prix title. It was an impressive feat, and fans went wild as Sapp stood victorious, solidifying his place as one of the most formidable competitors in K1. This tournament win was the peak of his fighting career and showcased his resilience and adaptability in a format that pushed fighters to their limits. At the height of his fame, Sapp wasn't just a fighter, he was everywhere in Japan. From TV shows to commercials, Sapp's charisma and larger-than-life personality made him a national sensation. He was known as the Beast, and fans loved every minute of it. His unique background, coupled with explosive fighting style, captivated audiences and kept them coming back for more. He even came close to securing a fight with Mike Tyson, which, had it happened, could have been one of the biggest spectacles in combat sports history. However, as we all know, Sapp's story didn't end on a high note. For reasons still debated among fans and critics alike, his career took a downward turn. Whether it was his shift in motivation, injuries, or a series of losses that seemed to pile up, the Bob Sapp we saw in later years was a far cry from the powerhouse who took Japan by storm. So, what really happened to Bob Sapp? While many combat sports fans argue that Bob Sapp was never truly committed to fighting and was more of a showman who stumbled upon a lucrative opportunity in Japan, it's hard to ignore that he did manage to defeat a seasoned fighter like Ernesto Hoost. Despite that, it's clear that Sapp never fully dedicated himself to honing his combat techniques. There are even whispers in the sport that suggest he was paid to take a dive on occasion, further fueling the belief that his heart wasn't really in the fight game. Let us know what you think. And if you want more deep dives into the rise and fall of fighting legends, make sure to hit that subscribe button and keep an eye out for our next video.